Tom was a young hiker who had spent most of his life wandering through mountains, forests, and valleys. Life had never been easy for him. He had grown up in a small town where opportunities were rare and jobs were limited. Even as a child, Tom had always loved nature more than crowded streets or noisy towns. He felt calm when he walked through pine forests, listened to birds singing, or watched the clouds drift over mountain peaks. At 24, Tom was still poor. He earned just enough by taking small temporary jobs in nearby towns. Some days he worked at a small cafe, washing dishes and cleaning tables. Other days he helped local farmers in exchange for food and a little money. Even with these efforts, he often struggled to pay for a simple room or a warm meal. Most nights he slept in small cabins, empty barns, or even in his worn-out tent under the open sky. He carried only a backpack with basic supplies, a few clothes, a notebook, a small first aid kit, and a flashlight that barely worked. Despite the hardships, Tom never complained. He loved the freedom of wandering, the smell of fresh rain on trees, and the quiet moments when he could sit by a river and think. Many people called him strange because he did not want a normal life with a steady job or a big house, but Tom believed that adventure and happiness were more important than money. One chilly morning, as the sun rose slowly over the hills, Tom checked his mailbox at the small post office in town. The mailbox was nearly empty, and he expected nothing. His stomach growled, reminding him that he had skipped breakfast again. To his surprise, he saw a thick envelope with a distant town stamp. The paper felt heavy and unusual in his hands. He carefully opened it and found a letter. The letter began politely and formally, explaining that Tom's distant relative, someone he had never met, had passed away. The relative had left him a property in the mountains, an old lodge that had been abandoned for years. Tom blinked and read the words again. At first, he thought it was a prank or a mistake. He had never heard of any relative who owned a lodge. The letter included official documents, the property address, and instructions for claiming the inheritance. Tom's heart raced. He had never had something of his own. The idea of owning a lodge, even an old one, made his mind whirl with possibilities. He could live there, explore the surrounding forests, and maybe even start a new life. But doubts quickly appeared. The lodge was in a remote area far from town. He had almost no money for travel, and the building might be in terrible condition. Still, he felt a spark of excitement. This could be the opportunity he had been waiting for. He decided immediately that he would go. He borrowed a small car from a friend who agreed after hearing the story. The journey was long and difficult. The roads narrowed as the car climbed higher into the mountains. Pine trees lined the path on both sides, and mist floated among the peaks. Tom felt nervous yet thrilled. He imagined what the lodge might look like. Would it have a fireplace, a kitchen, or rooms with old furniture? Or would it be empty and ruined, just as some old buildings he had seen before? By late afternoon, he finally reached the lodge. Hidden behind tall pines and thick bushes, it appeared almost magical. The wooden structure was large but weathered. Its windows were dusty and the paint had faded to dull gray. Some roof shingles were missing and the front steps were broken in places. A small wooden sign hung crookedly above the door, its letters faded and difficult to read. Tom stepped out of the car and took a deep breath. The air smelled of fresh pine, damp earth, and something old that he could not identify. He felt a strange mixture of fear and excitement. The lodge seemed alive in some way, as if it had been waiting for him. He ran his fingers over the old wooden door and pushed it open. The hinges creaked loudly, echoing through the quiet forest. Inside, the lodge smelled of old wood, dust, and time itself. Broken chairs and tables were scattered across the floor, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. Sunlight streamed through dirty windows, casting shadows that danced on the walls. Tom walked slowly, touching the surfaces and examining the rooms. Though the lodge looked abandoned, he could sense the memories hidden within its walls. He imagined families laughing in the main hall, travelers resting by the fireplace, and the quiet nights when only the wind whispered through the trees. The main hall was large, with a tall ceiling and a massive fireplace. Tom ran his hands over the mantel, noticing scratches and carvings left by someone long ago. He could see old photographs on the walls, faded beyond recognition. A spiral staircase led to the second floor, its wooden steps slightly crooked but still strong. He climbed carefully, imagining the stories that the lodge could tell. The rooms upstairs were simple, with old beds, broken chairs, and thick dust covering everything. Tom felt a strange connection to this place. It was like finding a secret world that no one had touched for years. As the evening approached, Tom decided to stay in the lodge for the night. He built a small fire in the fireplace using old logs he found in the storage room. The flames crackled and danced, filling the large hall with warmth and light. He cooked a simple meal of bread and canned beans, thinking about the adventure ahead. Though he was tired, he could not sleep. He kept walking through the rooms, examining each corner, imagining how he could repair the lodge and make it his home. While cleaning near the fireplace, Tom noticed a loose floorboard. It was easy to lift, and underneath he found a small wooden box. He opened it carefully, revealing a collection of old papers, a faded map, and a rusty key. Tom's curiosity grew. The map seemed to show the lodge in a small room hidden somewhere inside. The key looked old but sturdy. He felt a thrill run through him. Perhaps the lodge had more secrets waiting to be discovered. Tom studied the map by the firelight. He traced the lines with his finger, imagining where the hidden room could be. He felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Could there be something valuable inside? Or maybe it was just a small storage space filled with old junk? He could not know. But the idea of uncovering something hidden made his heart beat faster. That night, Tom slept on an old mattress he found in one of the upstairs rooms. He pulled an old blanket around himself and listened to the wind rustling through the trees. The lodge creaked occasionally, as if speaking to him in a language only he could understand. He dreamed of exploring the hidden room and discovering treasures that had been left untouched for years. He imagined his life changing, a future where he no longer had to worry about money, where he could live freely in the mountains, and where adventure awaited him every day. The next morning, Tom woke with determination. The sun shone through the dusty windows and birds sang outside. He stretched and looked at the map again. Today he decided he would search for the hidden room. He packed a small bag with tools, a flashlight, and the key. The lodge felt alive with possibilities, and he knew that this place, once abandoned and forgotten, could be the start of a new chapter in his life. Tom stepped outside, feeling the crisp mountain air fill his lungs. He looked at the lodge with new eyes. It was no longer just an old building. It was a world of secrets and adventures waiting for him to explore. He smiled, knowing that life had given him something rare and unexpected. The lodge had chosen him, or perhaps fate had guided him here. Either way, Tom felt ready for the journey ahead. Tom spent the first few days exploring every corner of the lodge. Each morning he woke with the sun and walked slowly through the hallways, touching the old wooden surfaces and imagining how the lodge must have looked when it was full of life. The floors creaked beneath his feet, and the smell of old wood mixed with the fresh mountain air drifting through the broken windows. He found old furniture, broken chairs, dusty tables, and shelves filled with faded books. Even though everything was worn and neglected, Tom felt a strange sense of peace. The lodge had a story, and he wanted to be a part of it. Cleaning the lodge became Tom's first task. He gathered buckets, rags, and cleaning supplies, scrubbing the floors and wiping down the walls. Dust flew everywhere, and sunlight streaming through the windows created patterns of tiny particles dancing in the air. Tom worked carefully, moving slowly but steadily. He found a broom in the storage room and swept the hallways, clearing the corners where cobwebs had grown thick over years. Some windows were stuck and difficult to open, so he used a small crowbar to loosen them. Once the fresh air entered the lodge, it felt lighter, brighter, and more welcoming. While cleaning, Tom began to notice details he had not seen before. A faded painting hung crookedly on one wall, showing a forest scene that reminded him of home. He discovered small carvings in the wooden banisters, initials and dates etched long ago. Each mark told a story. Tom imagined the people who had lived or visited here, children playing in the hall, travelers warming themselves by the fireplace, and families gathering for meals in the old kitchen. The lodge had been a place full of life once, and he felt honored to be its caretaker. One afternoon, while organizing the main hall, Tom noticed something unusual near the fireplace. One of the floorboards was slightly raised, unlike the others. His curiosity immediately sparked. He knelt down and tried to lift it carefully. It came up with a quiet creak, revealing a small wooden box hidden beneath. Tom's hands trembled slightly as he lifted the box from its hiding place. Inside, he found a collection of old papers, a faded map, and a small, rusty key. The papers were yellowed with age, and the map had creases from being folded many times. Tom examined the map closely. The map showed the lodge in detail, including rooms he had already explored. However, one area was marked with a small symbol he did not recognize. The mark indicated a hidden room somewhere inside the lodge. Tom felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had always loved adventure, and the idea of discovering a secret room filled him with anticipation. He studied the key carefully. It was small but sturdy, with rust covering parts of it. Tom guessed that it would fit a small lock somewhere in the lodge, perhaps in the hidden room. For the next few days, Tom focused on settling into the lodge. He fixed a few broken chairs and tables using nails and wood he found in the storage area. He cleaned the kitchen thoroughly, even though it was dusty and full of old utensils. He discovered a small stove which he cleaned and polished until it was usable again. Cooking became easier once he had clean surfaces and fresh water from the nearby stream. Tom made simple meals, enjoying bread, vegetables, and canned beans. Each day he felt more comfortable in the lodge. Evenings were Tom's favorite time. He would light a fire in the fireplace, and the warm glow filled the main hall. Shadows danced on the walls as the flames flickered. Tom would sit by the fire, looking at the old wooden beams above him, and think about the history of the lodge. Sometimes he wrote in his notebook about his daily activities and his dreams for the future. The hidden room weighed on his mind constantly. He knew that it might contain something valuable, but he also understood that discovering it would take patience and careful observation. Tom began searching the lodge systematically. He tapped on the walls, listened for hollow sounds, and examined the floors for any unusual gaps. He moved furniture, checked closets, and inspected every corner. The hidden room remained elusive. Despite the lodge being old and quiet, Tom felt as if it was guiding him, giving subtle hints about where the secret might be. He followed every instinct and every clue he could find. One evening, while inspecting the hallway near the stairs, Tom noticed a small draft coming from behind a bookshelf. He had moved furniture several times before, but had never paid attention to this corner. The draft felt unusual, as if air was moving through a hidden gap. Tom's heart beat faster. He pushed the heavy bookshelf aside and examined the wall carefully. There was a narrow outline that suggested a door had been hidden here. Excitedly, he tried the rusty key in a small keyhole he had discovered. It fit perfectly. With a slow turn, he heard the satisfying click of the lock opening. Tom pushed the door gently. It opened to reveal a dark, narrow room. The smell of old wood and dust was stronger here. The room was small but carefully arranged. Shelves lined the walls and old trunks were stacked neatly. Tom stepped inside, shining his flashlight over the contents. Each trunk seemed to hold something important. He opened one trunk slowly. Inside, he found bundles of old coins and paper notes, some dating back decades. Another chest contained jewelry and precious stones. Tom could hardly believe his eyes. The hidden room was full of treasures that had been untouched for years. Tom's hands trembled as he explored the room. He carefully documented everything in his notebook, describing each item and making sketches of the most interesting pieces. He understood that he had discovered something rare. The hidden room was not just a secret storage space. It was a treasure trove. He felt a mixture of awe, excitement, and responsibility. This discovery could change his life completely, but he knew he had to handle it wisely. For the next few days, Tom continued to explore the hidden room, organizing the treasures and learning more about their history. Some items were clearly valuable, while others had sentimental or historical importance. He wondered why his relative had hidden them here. Perhaps it was for safekeeping or to protect them from thieves. Tom felt grateful that he had been chosen to find them. He also realized that this lodge was more than just a building. It was a place full of secrets, memories, and stories waiting to be discovered. Even with the treasure discovered, Tom did not become greedy. He understood that the true value of the lodge was in the experience and the adventure it had given him. He continued to clean, repair, and improve the lodge. He fixed broken steps, replaced some window panes, and polished the wooden floors. Each improvement made the lodge feel more alive and welcoming. Tom felt proud of his work. He knew that this lodge, once abandoned, could become a place of comfort, happiness, and inspiration for him and others. At night, Tom would sit by the fireplace, thinking about the journey that had brought him here. He remembered his life as a hiker struggling for survival, sleeping under the stars and worrying about the next meal. Now he had a place to call home, a lodge full of history and a hidden room that could secure his future. The mountains, forests, and rivers surrounding the lodge made him feel free and alive. He understood that his life had changed. and he was ready for the new challenges and adventures ahead. Tom realized that settling into the lodge was only the beginning. There were still many mysteries to uncover, repairs to make, and stories to discover. He felt a sense of purpose that he had never felt before. The lodge, the hidden room, and the treasures were not just objects. They were opportunities for growth, learning, and adventure. Tom promised himself that he would treat the lodge with respect and care, honoring the history and the secrets it held. By the end of the week, the lodge looked more welcoming. Dust had been cleared, the floors were polished, and the fireplace glowed warmly each evening. Tom had made a small routine for himself, cleaning and repairing in the morning, exploring and organizing in the afternoon, and relaxing by the fire at night. The hidden room remained a secret, known only to him. Every time he entered it, he felt excitement and wonder. He knew that the true adventure was only beginning, and he was ready to face it with courage and curiosity. Tom woke up early, feeling the chill of the morning mountain air through the cracked windows of the lodge. The sun was just beginning to rise, sending golden beams through the tall pine trees outside. He stretched and took a deep breath, thinking about the hidden room he had discovered the day before. The thought of what might be inside filled him with excitement and curiosity. Today, he decided, he would explore it more thoroughly and see what secrets it truly held. After a simple breakfast of bread and fresh water from the nearby stream, Tom packed a small bag. He included a flashlight, a notebook, a pen, and gloves to protect his hands. He also brought a few tools, thinking that some of the old trunks and boxes might be difficult to open. He unlocked the small hidden door with the rusty key and stepped inside the room. The air smelled of old wood, dust, and faint traces of something sweet, like old books or preserved papers. The room was small, but it felt important, as if it had been waiting for someone to find it. Tom carefully scanned the shelves and trunks. Each container was neatly placed, suggesting that someone had taken great care in storing the items. He opened the first trunk and found bundles of old coins. They were carefully wrapped in cloth, and some had strange symbols on them. He counted a few and realized that they were more valuable than he had first imagined. The coins were old, some possibly hundreds of years old, and their condition was remarkably good. He placed them back gently and moved to the next chest. Inside the second chest, he found jewelry. Rings, necklaces, bracelets, and brooches were stacked neatly on soft cloth. The stones glimmered even in the dim light of his flashlight. Tom's hands trembled slightly as he examined them. Some pieces looked ordinary, but others were clearly rare and precious. He realized that the hidden room was not just a storage space. It was a treasure trove carefully preserved over time. His heart raced with excitement, but he also felt a sense of responsibility. This treasure belonged to someone before him, and he needed to handle it with care and respect. As Tom continued exploring, he found boxes of old documents. Letters, diaries, and ledgers filled the shelves. Some letters were addressed to people with names he did not recognize, and the handwriting was elegant but faded. He picked up one diary and opened it carefully. The pages were delicate, and the ink had turned brown with age. The diary told stories of travelers who had stayed at the lodge, business transactions, and even personal notes about life in the mountains many years ago. Tom realized that the hidden room was also a library of memories, preserving the lives of people who had lived or visited here long ago. While examining the documents, Tom noticed something unusual. One of the ledgers contained numbers and symbols that seemed to indicate the value of certain items. He compared the entries with the coins and jewelry he had already seen. It became clear that the items had been carefully cataloged and preserved, possibly as part of a family legacy. Tom's excitement grew even more. Not only had he found valuable treasure, but he had also uncovered a part of history that had been hidden for decades. Tom decided to organize the treasures systematically. He made notes in his notebook, writing down details of each trunk, its contents, and their possible value. He sketched some of the most interesting items, including a necklace with a rare gemstone and a silver coin with unusual markings. The process was slow, but Tom enjoyed every moment. Each discovery was like finding a new piece of a puzzle, revealing more about the lodge and the people who had cared for it. After several hours, Tom took a short break by the small window in the hidden room. The mountains stretched out in every direction, covered in green pine trees. He could hear birds singing, the rustle of leaves, and the distant sound of a stream. The view reminded him of why he had always loved nature. Even with the treasure around him, he felt that the true gift was the adventure, the discovery, and the beauty of the world outside the lodge. Refreshed, Tom returned to the trunks. He found one large chest at the back of the room that he had not opened yet. It was heavier than the others, and the lock was more complicated. He took a deep breath and carefully worked to open it using the tools he had brought. After several minutes, the lock clicked open. Inside, he discovered something that made him gasp. The chest contained stacks of old paper notes, silver bars, and more coins than he could count. Each item was carefully wrapped in cloth to prevent damage. Tom realized that the chest alone could change his life completely. For hours, Tom examined the contents of the chest. He handled everything carefully, making notes about the items, their condition, and their apparent value. He tried not to think about how much money this could be worth, focusing instead on documenting the discovery. He knew that being careful now would ensure that nothing was damaged or lost. The hidden room had been preserved perfectly, and Tom understood that his patience and attention to detail were crucial. As the day turned into evening, Tom decided to take a break. He sat on a small stool in the hidden room, reflecting on everything he had found. The treasure was incredible, but what fascinated him most was the history and the care with which it had been preserved. Whoever had hidden these items had wanted them to survive through time, and now Tom was the one entrusted with this responsibility. He felt a sense of connection to the past, as if the lodge itself was welcoming him and guiding him to protect its secrets. Tom knew he could not keep all of this treasure by himself, at least not safely. He decided to contact a trustworthy expert who could appraise the value of the coins, jewelry, and documents. He would need help understanding the true worth and significance of each item. But even before contacting anyone, Tom felt proud of what he had discovered. The hidden room was more than a secret. It was a key to a new chapter of his life. That night, Tom stayed in the lodge, sitting by the fireplace with the hidden room door slightly ajar. The firelight flickered across the walls, creating dancing shadows. He thought about the journey that had brought him here, from a broke hiker wandering the mountains to someone who had uncovered a hidden treasure. The lodge had given him more than money. It had given him purpose, excitement, and a connection to something much larger than himself. Before going to sleep, Tom made one final inspection of the hidden room. He carefully wrapped some of the smaller items in cloth to prevent damage and placed them back in the trunks. He double-checked the lock on the door and made sure everything was as he had found it, only better organized. The room felt alive, not just because of the treasures but because of the energy and history it held. Tom realized that discovering the hidden room was only the beginning. There were more stories to uncover, more secrets to learn, and perhaps even more treasures waiting for him in the lodge. Tom lay on his bed that night, listening to the sounds of the forest outside. The wind whispered through the pine trees and distant owls called to each other. He felt a deep sense of peace. For the first time in his life, he felt that everything was changing for the better. The hidden room had given him hope, excitement, and a glimpse of a life he had only dreamed about. He drifted to sleep with a smile on his face, ready for the adventures and discoveries that awaited him in the coming days. Tom woke up to the soft sunlight filtering through the windows of the lodge. Birds chirped outside and the fresh mountain air filled the room. He stretched and thought about the hidden room and the treasures it held. For days he had been exploring, organizing, and documenting the contents. Now he realized that the discovery could completely change his life. The excitement was mixed with a careful sense of responsibility. He knew that this was not just a small find. It was something that could make him wealthy beyond his dreams. After a simple breakfast, Tom decided it was time to take action. He packed a few essential items from the hidden room carefully, making sure nothing was damaged. He wrapped the smaller treasures in soft cloth and placed them in sturdy boxes. Then, he drove down the mountain to the nearest town, a small but busy place with cobblestone streets and friendly people. Tom had heard of an expert appraiser in the town, someone who could evaluate old coins, jewelry, and documents. He hoped this person would be trustworthy and knowledgeable. Tom found the appraiser's shop, a small building filled with shelves of old books, antiques, and mysterious artifacts. The appraiser, an elderly man named Mr. Harlan, welcomed Tom warmly. After listening to his story, Mr. Harlan carefully examined the items. He looked at the coins, handled the jewelry, and studied the documents. Tom watched nervously, trying not to imagine the value too much but hoping for the best. After hours of careful inspection, Mr. Harlan finally spoke. He explained that many of the coins were extremely rare, some dating back several centuries. The jewelry included precious gemstones and silver pieces, some of which were handcrafted and unique. The documents and ledgers were historically significant, offering insight into trade, travel, and life in the mountains long ago. Mr. Harlan estimated the total value of the hidden treasures to be in the millions. Tom could hardly believe his ears. He had never imagined that his discovery would be worth this much. Tom left the appraiser's shop with a mixture of excitement and disbelief. As he drove back to the lodge, he thought about how his life had changed in a single week. From a poor hiker who worried about his next meal, he had become the owner of a treasure worth millions. But Tom also felt careful. He knew that wealth could be dangerous if not handled wisely. He needed a plan to use the money responsibly and protect the lodge and the hidden room. Back at the lodge, Tom began to make improvements. He repaired broken windows, replaced old wooden boards, and polished the floors. The lodge, once abandoned and worn, slowly became a welcoming place full of light and warmth. He fixed the roof to prevent leaks, cleaned the chimneys, and painted the walls in soft, natural colors that matched the surrounding mountains. Each improvement made him proud, and he felt that the lodge was finally coming alive. Tom also decided to keep some of the treasure in the hidden room, carefully stored and documented. He created a secure system to ensure that everything remained safe. He did not want to rush or make mistakes that could put the treasures at risk. Instead, he focused on what he could do to build a better future using this wealth. He thought about helping the community, investing in the lodge, and creating opportunities for others to enjoy the mountains as he had. One idea that excited Tom was to turn part of the lodge into a guest house. He imagined hikers, travelers, and families visiting the lodge to enjoy the peaceful mountains. He wanted them to experience the same sense of wonder and calm that he felt when he first arrived. With the treasure he had found, he could renovate rooms, create comfortable accommodations, and even offer small guided tours of the lodge and surrounding forests. Tom felt inspired by the possibilities. As the weeks passed, Tom worked tirelessly. He repaired rooms, set up comfortable beds, and decorated the lodge with furniture he found locally. He created a small kitchen where guests could enjoy meals, and he built a cozy sitting area near the fireplace. The lodge gradually became a place of warmth, beauty, and history. Tom's hard work, patience, and care transformed the abandoned building into something special. He felt proud of what he had accomplished. News of the lodge began to spread. Travelers passing through the mountains heard about the mysterious lodge hidden among the trees, with a rich history and a sense of adventure. Some came out of curiosity, while others were drawn by the natural beauty surrounding it. Tom welcomed each visitor warmly, sharing stories about the lodge's past and allowing them to explore the rooms and halls. He did not reveal the hidden room, keeping its treasures a secret. The lodge became a place of excitement, learning, and wonder for everyone who visited. With the money he had from selling a portion of the treasure, Tom also invested in the local town. He supported small businesses, helped repair roads, and donated to the local school. The townspeople admired his generosity and respected the young hiker who had discovered such wealth yet remained humble and kind. Tom realized that wealth was not just about having money. It was about using it to make life better for others. One evening, after a long day of welcoming guests, Tom sat by the fireplace in the main hall. He reflected on how far he had come. From a broke hiker struggling to survive, he had become a successful lodge owner and a responsible caretaker of a hidden treasure. He felt a deep sense of satisfaction and gratitude. The mountains, the forests, and the lodge had given him more than money. They had given him purpose, adventure, and a home. Tom also realized that the hidden room was a symbol of opportunity. It showed him that patience, curiosity, and courage could lead to incredible discoveries. He had taken the time to explore, clean, and investigate the lodge carefully. He had not rushed or ignored the clues. Because of his careful approach, he had uncovered something extraordinary. The hidden room had changed his life, but it also taught him an important lesson. True rewards come to those who work patiently and wisely. As the lodge became more popular, Tom hired a few assistants to help with cleaning, cooking, and guiding visitors. He trained them carefully, teaching them the importance of respect, care, and curiosity. The lodge was no longer just his home. It had become a community. Visitors and staff alike felt the magic of the place, the sense that something special was hidden in the mountains. Tom was happy to see the lodge alive with energy, laughter, and learning. Despite the wealth and the busy lodge, Tom never forgot the simple pleasures of life. He continued to hike through the mountains, enjoying the quiet streams, the smell of pine trees, and the view of the clouds rolling over the peaks. He remembered the days when he had slept under the stars with nothing but a backpack. Those experiences had shaped him, making him humble, grateful, and adventurous. Even as a millionaire, he felt the same joy in nature that he had always loved. The lodge became a symbol of hope and adventure. Visitors often asked Tom how he had discovered it, and what had led him to the hidden treasures. He shared some stories of the lodge's history, the adventures he had in cleaning and exploring, and the excitement of discovering the hidden room. He kept the exact location of the treasures a secret, knowing that some mysteries were meant to remain hidden. The hidden room remained a private sanctuary, a place of wonder for him alone. One quiet evening, Tom looked out of the lodge window at the mountains bathed in the golden light of sunset. He felt a sense of pride, satisfaction, and calm. His life had changed in ways he had never imagined. He had gone from a poor hiker to a millionaire with a home full of history, adventure, and beauty. Yet he remained humble, kind, and connected to the world around him. The lodge had given him more than money. It had given him a future, a purpose, and a story worth sharing. Tom knew that his journey was not over. There were still more adventures to have, more discoveries to make, and more ways to use the lodge to bring joy to others. The hidden room had started it all, but it was only the beginning of a life full of wonder, responsibility, and happiness. The mountains, the lodge, and the hidden treasures had shown him that sometimes the greatest rewards come from curiosity, courage, and a willingness to explore the unknown. Tom woke up to the soft golden light of morning streaming through the windows of the lodge. The pine trees outside swayed gently in the wind, and the distant sound of a river running through the valley reached his ears. Life had changed dramatically for him in the past few months, yet he felt as connected to nature as he had on his very first hike. Owning the lodge, discovering the hidden room, and managing the treasures had transformed his life. But he had never let wealth change who he was at his core. After a simple breakfast of fresh bread, cheese, and fruits, Tom stepped outside. The lodge now looked completely different from the first time he had seen it. The old paint had been restored to soft, natural colors. The windows were clean and shining, and the roof was fully repaired. Flowers had been planted along the walkway, and a small garden near the stream was thriving. Tom had turned the abandoned lodge into a warm and welcoming home that also felt alive with history and adventure. The guest house part of the lodge was fully operational now. Visitors came from far and wide, drawn by the stories of the abandoned lodge and the mystery of the hidden room. Some stayed for a day, while others spent a week exploring the forests and mountains nearby. Tom enjoyed meeting each guest personally, sharing stories about the lodge's history, and teaching them how to appreciate the beauty of nature. The lodge had become a place of learning, adventure, and inspiration for everyone who visited. Tom often reflected on the journey that had brought him here. From a poor hiker struggling to survive, he had become a millionaire who owned a beautiful lodge and managed treasures of great value. Yet he had never forgotten the nights he had slept under the stars with only a backpack, the long walks through the mountains, or the quiet moments by a river thinking about life. Those experiences had shaped him into a humble and grateful person. Wealth had not changed him. It had only allowed him to follow his dreams more fully. One afternoon, while walking through the forest near the lodge, Tom met a group of young hikers who were lost. They had wandered off the main trail and were unsure how to return to the lodge safely. Tom guided them through the woods, showing them the paths and teaching them how to follow natural signs. He shared tips about hiking safely, finding fresh water, and reading the patterns of the trees and sky. The hikers listened eagerly, impressed by his knowledge and kindness. When they finally reached the lodge, they thanked Tom warmly, promising to return one day. Inside the lodge, Tom continued to improve and expand. He added a small library with books about nature, history, and adventure. He decorated it with old maps, photographs, and artifacts he had discovered in the hidden room. Guests could sit quietly by the fire, read, and learn about the world while enjoying the peaceful environment. Tom also set up a small workshop where visitors could learn crafts and skills like woodworking, drawing, and writing. The lodge had become a center of creativity, learning, and exploration. Despite the lodge's popularity, Tom maintained the secret of the hidden room. It remained a private sanctuary, a place of history and treasures that he alone could access. Occasionally, he would spend time in the hidden room, documenting new discoveries and learning more about the past. Each visit reminded him of the importance of patience, curiosity, and careful observation. The hidden room had changed his life, not only by providing wealth but also by teaching him valuable lessons about responsibility and respect for history. With the wealth he had acquired, Tom also helped the nearby village. He funded repairs to the school, improved the road leading to the lodge, and supported local farmers by buying their produce. The villagers admired his generosity and humility. Tom believed that true wealth was not just about money, but about helping others and creating opportunities for the community. His actions inspired many young people to explore nature, work hard, and remain kind and respectful to others. One evening, after a long day of welcoming visitors and guiding hikers, Tom sat by the fireplace in the main hall. The lodge was quiet now, with only the soft crackling of the fire and the gentle sounds of the forest outside. He thought about how much his life had changed. A few months ago, he had been a broke hiker with little hope of the future. Now he had a home full of history, adventure, and wealth, and he had found a purpose in sharing it with others. Tom's favorite times were the quiet moments when he could sit by the fire and reflect. He remembered the day he first discovered the hidden floorboard and found the wooden box with the map and key. At that moment, his life had taken a completely new path. The hidden room had been a secret waiting for the right person to find it, and it had chosen him. He realized that his patience, curiosity, and determination had brought him to this incredible point in his life. The lodge became known not just for its history and treasures, but also for its atmosphere. Visitors felt a sense of calm and wonder when they stayed there. Families enjoyed hiking in the surrounding forests. Children loved exploring safe trails, and writers and artists found inspiration in the serene environment. Tom had created a place where people could escape the busyness of life and connect with nature and history. Tom also found joy in teaching visitors about simple living and adventure. He encouraged them to explore the forests, respect wildlife, and appreciate the beauty around them. He shared stories about his days as a broke hiker, teaching lessons about perseverance, patience, and the importance of staying curious. Visitors listened eagerly, inspired by his journey from poverty to success while remaining kind and humble. As the seasons changed, the lodge transformed with them. In spring, flowers bloomed and streams sparkled in the sunlight. In summer, hikers and families filled the trails and the lodge buzzed with energy. In autumn, golden leaves covered the mountains, and the lodge became a cozy retreat for writers and artists. In winter, snow covered the roofs and trees, and the lodge glowed warmly, offering comfort and warmth to visitors who came to enjoy the peaceful mountains. Tom loved every season and every moment. One night, as the stars shone brightly over the mountains, Tom stood outside the lodge and looked at the sky. He felt a deep sense of gratitude for everything he had experienced. From wandering as a poor hiker to discovering the hidden room and becoming a millionaire, his journey had been full of surprises and lessons. He realized that the true treasures in life were not just money or jewels, but adventure, purpose, kindness, and the ability to share joy and knowledge with others. The hidden room had given him wealth, but the mountains, the forests, and the lodge had given him life. He felt proud of what he had built and grateful for the journey that had brought him here. Tom knew that his life would continue to be full of adventures, discoveries, and opportunities to help others. The lodge was no longer just a building. It was a home, a center of learning, a place of magic, and a symbol of hope for everyone who visited. Tom understood that life was full of surprises, and sometimes the greatest rewards came from places you least expected. The hidden room had changed his life in ways he could never have imagined, but it also taught him important lessons about patience, curiosity, and responsibility. He smiled, knowing that the adventure was far from over. The mountains, the lodge, and the hidden treasures would continue to guide him toward new experiences, and he was ready to embrace them all. As he walked back into the lodge, Tom felt a sense of peace and fulfillment. The lodge was alive with warmth, laughter, and learning. Guests were settling into their rooms, the fire crackled in the main hall, and the forests outside whispered in the wind. Tom had gone from a broke hiker to a millionaire, but he had also gained much more. A home, a purpose, a community, and a life full of wonder. The lodge, once abandoned, had become a place where dreams could grow, adventures could happen, and history could be preserved. Tom knew that this was only the beginning of a life filled with discovery, learning, and joy. He felt ready for every challenge, every adventure, and every opportunity that the future would bring. The lodge and the hidden room had shown him that sometimes the greatest treasures are hidden in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone brave and curious enough to find them. And Tom was ready to continue exploring, learning, and sharing the magic of the mountains with everyone who came to visit.